In the course of human events, we find ourselves now at a turning point in history where you have vicious, bloodthirsty, diabolical terror striking, attacking the innocent just because they're Jewish, with mutilation, shockingly diabolical, shockingly grotesque, medieval even. We find ourselves peering into the abyss. Life and death hang in the balance, hang before us. We arise, the defenders of the outpost of democracy, the plumb line for the world in many ways. We jumped into action to stop this. This is our moment to complete the job. And I ask you, what if it happened to your country? What if it happened to you, to your loved ones? What would you do? And I'm not even mentioning the incessant hailstorm, unrelenting torrent of rockets showering upon our innocent here in Israel in murderous intent. Our sons and daughters taken captive into the dungeons of despair and darkness to be raped, killed, used as bargaining chips and human shields. And I read Psalms chapter 9, verse 7. The enemy is finished, in ruins forever. You have overturned their cities, even the memory of them has perished, but Adonai reigns forever. He establishes his throne for judgment. He judges the world in righteousness and governs the people justly. Adonai is a stronghold for the oppressed. Let's look quickly at the Iranian plot, where we heard, where have I heard this before? It sounds like a story of Esther in ancient Persia, but this Iranian plot to destroy Israel all at once. Listen to this. Let's discuss this intricate, multifaceted Iranian plot to fully annihilate Israel. We're not talking about a terror attack, a few terrorist cells, or a localized, radicalized group. We're talking about a master plan to destroy Israel in one day. It really is just like we read in the ancient scroll of Esther, this plot of Haman to annihilate every Jewish person from the young to the old. It sounds unimaginable, I know, but watch their plan. So to the best of our understanding, this is the way the diabolical Iranian master plan was planning to work, is to activate their Hezbollah elite force called Rodwan in the north. The highly trained Rodwan force of Hezbollah would advance along with the Nukhba force in the south, in Gaza.
Okay.
Iran's original plan, to the best of our knowledge, was to first remove the emergency response forces of the IDF, both in the north and the south. So we discovered that after that initial attack had been completed, their plan was to advance and make a new line. We'll call that line the Beersheba line. The elite forces of the Hezbollah terror group named Rodwan would then take the Galilee all the way to the Golani Junction, as well as leaving these areas behind them called X territory. And that's territory where they're taking hostages, where they're pushing in tons of terrorists from north and south. As you know, they took hostages, and that's psychological warfare. That's to cause our hearts to fail and to put us in a dilemma, in a deadlock, in a quandary, where they're advancing and they have our people hostage, both in the north and south. By the amount of food they brought, the weapons, their strategy, their artillery, what they carried with them, the bombs, etc., that they plan to guard both those lines, what's called the Beersheba line and the Galilee line, and it puts Israel in a very hard place. Between these two lines for command and control of a war, while the entire country's in war, that means roads are blocked off. And if the two areas where majority of the major army bases are, we're not going to go into exactly where the major military installations are, but it puts Israel in a very hard place to be able to run a war from here. And when you have thousands and thousands of terrorists and enemy forces within Israel, you can't really launch a counter-offensive. You're kind of in the squeeze here. Never mind exactly where our nuclear facilities are and other very big assets. We are squeezed in. The Bedouins have a saying that says, when the camel it starts to rock back and forth and shake, everybody pull out knives. And that's what would happen. You see, even Judea and Samaria here in the Jordan Valley along the Jordan River, you would have full attacks from everywhere. So you can see it's not just the Hezbollah and their Radwan force or the Hamas and their Nukhba force, but also the Islamic Jihad and the Izaldin al-Qassam and many more forces such as the Houthis, such as even intercontinental ballistic missiles from Iran, Yemen, coming from the sea, and explosions all throughout Israel, all throughout the Tel Aviv. And really it puts us in a place where we are in psychological warfare as well, not knowing where our loved ones are, not being able to really plan properly. It is a satanic Nazi destroy Israel plan. This plan wasn't concocted in a day. Tunnels have been built, attack tunnels from Lebanon, underground from Hamas, indoctrination, weapons caches, build-up training, maneuvers, and suddenly this party here was like a trigger. They felt, the Hamas and the Islamic Jihad felt that it was a trigger where it would trigger everybody to join in and participate, and it would activate the plan. This party, they could see building up this opportunity. It's like a wolf with dripping fangs waiting to pounce. So although we sustained heavy losses in the massacre there in the south, but the first miracles that the plan didn't go off together in unison. A secondary miracle that happened is that the Islamic extremist factions within Israel, like in Jenin, Qalqilia, Hebron, so on, they were in shock. They didn't join in all at once in unison. And they certainly didn't get to their line, their Beersheba line there. So instead of essentially achieving clear military strategic goals in their plan, which we discovered pieces of their plan on computers written out in books, what happened is they ended up getting busy in the raping, the murdering, the pillaging, the heinous acts of grotesque violence, and they ended up not achieving their main goal they set out to do, to make that line. Their plan to open the floodgates of terror and bring in thousands upon thousands of people. They brought in maybe under 4,000 people, but they weren't able to really keep the line because they thought the sheep would be murdered in their sleep, murdered in some, even though they did do a great surprise on Simchat Torah, on the Joy of the Torah celebration at the end of Tabernacle time. No one was ready, but yet they thought they'd be able to hold the line. They weren't. The few people that were there, although many massacred, were able to fight like lions and to be able to hold the line until the big rest of the army forces were able to come in and get ready. And of course, I was amongst these people here in the south. And after fierce fighting, and many stories are just coming out now, how one held off hundreds, how even women in tanks were able to hold off entire advancing troops, and really to be able to crush the majority of the power of their Nukhba elite force, and then to again bring forces in. We maintained the sovereignty of our borders all through Israel. They thought our borders would be completely compromised everywhere. Our borders remained sovereign. We fear and shock turned into anger, turned into determination, and we went to the northern border right away. Everyone underestimated our determination as shepherds of the flocks of Israel to defend the defenseless little lambs from these vicious wolves. And we were praying there at the end of Tabernacles, Hoshana Rabbah. Hoshiana means please save us, is what it means. And Ashkenazi Jews were praying that for 3 hours. And these were the hours where Israel was defended. We didn't even know what we were being saved from. And the Sephardic Jews were praying for Messiah, the son of Joseph, to arise and build Jerusalem. And we are filled with determination and righteous indignation to complete this job.
Thank you, Aliyah Bitol Center.
Woo!